Hey guys, welcome back to another live stream. Today, this is the DCTV show episode 58. We are here with Eric. Eric is here without his face cam. He's buying. Well, his camera comes tomorrow. So
Yeah,
if you guys watch the after party, Eric's face should be back. Although we
yeah,
have a
it should
still
be. If not, I'll
photo.
be using my laptop. That's there'll be a camera tomorrow, one way or the other. So
Yeah. So today, obviously, we're going to talk about the Flash. That is the big thing this week. According to Eric, because I'm not up to date on them, Batwoman and Legends are off right now, so we can't really talk about those, even though who really wants to? Well, I guess some people like it. Wait, I think some people said they like Batwoman at the moment, so
Batwoman's better. I mean, still people that don't like it. I mean, it's
mm,
not perfect. There's still issues with it, but it's better. It's not at the level it should be, but it's getting there. Legends I haven't watched, so I can't really comment on
yeah.
Legends. But
Who watches Legends? No one.
I know.
Um, anyway, yeah, welcome to the live stream to everyone who is here. We have Jamie in the chat, Nathan, Arrowverse Scenes, Cal, who is also a member of the channel, as well as Arrowverse Scenes. Welcome to all of you guys who are just joining. As always, if you want to send in questions and contribute towards the channel, please be sure to send them in via Super Chats. You can ask us about anything. I presume most of you guys are going to want to talk about the Flash Armageddon Part 3 or Part 4 and what's happening next week. So if you want to talk about all of this, please be sure to do it via Super Chat and we'll pop it up on the screen. But as always, we do have stuff to hit, stuff to go through, and yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So Armageddon Part 3, Eric.
Mhm.
General thoughts on the episode. Did you like it? Did you hate it?
No, I actually did like it quite a bit. I think that this is the strongest the Flash has been in a long time in terms of like just episodes in general. I still think that part 2 was the best of the 3 episodes, but this one was still really, really strong. It's obviously not perfect, but I think that what it's showing is that there has been a shift in kind of what we've been getting from the Flash, like compared to last season and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's, some sort of shifts, and maybe this is like, false hope again. You remember last season? I keep on saying this, but
Yeah.
we had a first couple of good episodes, and now we've had like very solid first 2 episodes, and I feel like episode 3 was like a big deal. There's a
Mhm.
lot of stuff that goes down, and it was very good overall. Like, I think there was less cringy stuff and less nitpicky stuff. Yes, there's still stuff we can nitpick, and I'm sure we're going to get into it. But I think overall, as a whole, it was very, very solid. And, it's like, especially, well, I mean, I want to talk about Iris, but I feel like this episode was really good for her. I
Mhm.
don't know if you feel
Yeah.
similar. But yeah, so I mean, if you were to overall rate it between the 3 episodes so far, is this your favorite of the season?
No, my favorite was the second episode. This one would probably be a little bit better than the first episode. I think if I was rating them in like my order, it'd be like 1, 3, 2. That's how I would rate
One
them
through
in terms of like 1 being the not bad, but I think 1 was weaker than 3, but I think 3 was weaker than 2. So
Yeah. Is there a specific reason why you think 2 is better than 3? What
I
do you
think
think?
2 had okay, so 3 had the best cliffhanger. The end of this
Yeah.
episode had
Yeah.
the best cliffhanger. I think 2 for me had the best like visual elements in it. Like I really enjoyed seeing, Barry use his power in a creative way. We hadn't seen him do some of that stuff
Mhm.
before. And I like the idea of him, in that episode using his CSI stuff even more and like tracking people down and everything.
Yeah.
Like I just really like the vibe of the second episode. This one I think relied heavily on our supporting characters, and that's fine. But I was really
Yeah.
enjoying the journey of Barry, and I think we got bits of that in episode 3. But I think episode 2 really was like the culmination of everything that I've wanted from Barry over the last 2 seasons. So
Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel pretty similar. Obviously, I think maybe the cliffhanger kind of tops it for me. That's why I consider it maybe a bit better because I really enjoyed it. And like the cliffhanger genuinely was like, I haven't had that in the Flash for quite a while. So I appreciate it when we get it.
Well,
But
the
yeah.
thing is, I think a lot of people their excitement does hang heavily on the cliffhanger. I think that does
For
bring up the
sure.
episodes for a lot of
Because
people.
I mean, if you just end like on, I don't know, a random conversation and nothing happens to get you excited for the next week, I think that's a big thing with TV shows. You have to be like wanting more. And for the Flash and the Arrowverse shows, a lot of the story is like centered around mystery. And by like dropping a hint at the end of every episode, that's like, it gets people interested. So
It's very
yeah,
reminiscent of like seasons 2 and 3 of Flash, which is something that we haven't had in a long time.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's go to the start of the episode. We had the reveal, and we theorized this actually. I said this, I think you said it, I think a bunch of people said it. When Barry said injustice and never said anything else, we were like, this is some sort of like code word. And it turns out it's true. It's called the Injustice Protocol, and it's all revealed, and basically the idea of the protocol is if one of the members of the Justice League or whatever they call themselves goes rogue and is a threat to Earth, they would basically stop them and take away their powers, right?
Well, I don't know if it's always take away their powers. I think it's just like to keep them in check, maybe.
Yeah, to keep them in check.
Yeah, but I mean, in this instance, Barry used the code word to get Jefferson to take away his powers. And we can talk about that specific part of it in a moment if you want, but just the fact that there are checks and balances is very reminiscent of like how Batman operated in the Justice League and always had some sort of a protocol to like ways to defeat the heroes in case they went rogue. And so it was kind of cool that that was something that they had established. Like we didn't know that, but I think that it was cool to find out that that is a thing. And I'm curious to whether or not we will see this again in like a crossover, like if somebody will go rogue and they'll have to use their code word or whatever.
I like that you bring up Batman because it's actually, I completely agree. It's completely reminiscent of that because like, you remember like many times, whether it's an animated show or the comic books, every time someone finds out about a file on them with Batman's like protocols of what happens if this person goes rogue or something. Yeah, definitely reminiscent of that. They always freak out. So yeah, that's actually a good reference. But we have a couple of super chats, so we'll go into obviously Barry taking away his powers and wanting to do that in just a moment. But let's go through a couple of these. So we have Metron who sends in a $2 super chat. Thank you very much, Metron. Metron says, "I see Reverse Flash, aka Mr. Steal Your Girl." Eric, thoughts on Mr. Steal Your Girl? What's going on?
I mean, do we really want to get into that now? I mean, that's at the very end of the episode. But I will say
We'll
that
get into it later, but
it was exciting. I didn't expect it. Like, you can kind of sometimes think about like when we've talked about stuff that could possibly happen. I really enjoy when like we're completely wrong, but in a good way. Like when we never thought of something and then it happens. Like I would have never expected to see that happen. And so I was just shocked in that moment. And I'm like, okay, so this is cool.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. You're like, oh shit, he friggin' just like, he not only won, but he won in the biggest way possible. He took away his literal entire life as well. Like, he's not just the Flash. He's Barry Allen, basically. So yeah, Mr. Steal Your Girl. That's definitely what I was thinking. I was like, oh shit, you stole your girl. What? It was definitely crazy. So thanks, Metron, for the super chat. Silhouetted Animator sends in a super chat and he says, "That mention of Felix Faust by Jefferson makes me sad that we never saw the Arrowverse's Justice League fight a Constantine villain. Mark Margolis needs to reprise." So yeah, there was a version of Faust in Constantine. I really liked him for the brief time that he showed up. I thought it was very good. Obviously, the mention in this episode of Faust is just like a one-off. And I'll tell you why I like that they mentioned it. It means that they've actually teamed up as the Justice League more than just once in Crisis
Mhm.
and never did it again
Right.
before everyone leaves, you know? So I really like that. Do you like that? The
I
idea
like
of,
it. It does, the thing is, it reminds me a lot of the Red Death comment and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of times that stuff is mentioned where you're never sure if you'll ever see anything like that again.
Mhm.
And if you're a fan of Felix and you're a fan of like that version of the character from Constantine, as much as I love them mentioning it, because I do, I think it's very cool. It's also kind of like, man, I would love to have seen that battle.
Of
That would have
course.
been really cool. Because a lot of times on the show, if it's mentioned off camera, it annoys people. Like if something happens
Yeah.
between seasons or whatever. But yeah, it was one of those things where it was a cool little Easter egg, but I don't know if we'll ever see that character.
No, I don't
And
think
I'll
we're going to see the character.
yeah, but yeah, so like a demonic sorcerer, that would have been really cool.
Yeah. Maybe that's a future crossover, or we could flash back to it at one point. Who knows? Probably not, but yeah. Thanks so much, Silhouetted Animator, for the super chat. Cal Roswell sends in a super chat, 99-cent one. Thank you for the support, Cal. I appreciate it. Team Forward also sends in a $2 super chat, and they ask, will Caitlin be Killer Frost in the crossover? I presume not, considering that she hasn't turned into Frost yet. And I think there was mention of Frost being elsewhere, right?
Yeah, Killer Frost. They explained where they were. I think a lot of people were confused because Caitlin wasn't in that scene at the end of the episode, so they're like wondering what the story behind that is. So they're like, well, if Caitlin wasn't there, maybe she's turned back into Killer Frost or whatever. I don't think that would be the case. I can't see them merging them back together. That would just be annoying at this point. So
yeah, I'm not sure. But thanks for the super chat, Team Forward. Metron, I see your super chat. We're going to get to that in just a moment. We're just going to quickly move on in terms of where we're at in the episode. Okay, so I want to talk about Barry wanting to take his powers away. What did you make of all of that and everything that went down with Black Lightning and Barry inside the Hall of Justice?
where do we start with this? I mean, I don't like the idea of taking Barry's powers away as a means to create tension. I think it's been overdone. It's different if he loses it, like if they're fighting and somebody knocks his powers away, or they have the abilities to take his powers away, or something like that, or he faces a character that's as fast as he is. Like those kinds of things don't bother me, but him trying to take his speed away again, and then we'd have to get it back again. Like I implore everyone involved with the Flash to just stop doing that. It's nothing drives me up the wall more in terms of Barry when we're talking about level up, level up, level up. Oh, I have to take my powers away. It was really annoying. Second thing about that is I don't understand, even with the weird sciencey stuff that they do, how in the world Barry could have modified Jefferson's watch to somehow disconnect him from the speed force that he created.
Yeah.
That also didn't make a lot of sense to me. And there's other ways to take his speed away. There's technology to do it. There's the Medicure. There's all kinds of things you could do to take his speed away that didn't require some weird, battle with Black Lightning, which I thought was
They could
kind
have
of
totally done the
crazy.
Medicare. Now you say that, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, so my
That's
thing
the
with this
easiest
is
way.
they wanted to create this injustice protocol and make it this high stakes thing, like Barry could lose his power, and that's supposed to be what we're worried about. But the thing is, he's lost his power so much, I don't even care anymore. Like when they say that, I'm just like, I don't give
Yeah.
I don't give a shit like anymore. Basically, that's how I felt. Plus, there was other ways to do it. My theory is they wanted to have a Barry versus Jefferson fight, which I'm okay with
For sure.
because the fight was very cool.
Mhm.
And they had to find a way to make that happen without making Barry like a full-on villain. So this was their way to get that, as writers, to get that to happen. And it also goes back into the idea of the Injustice Protocol in general, and that's why it kind of happened that way.
Yeah. And when Barry snapped and he started attacking Jefferson separately, and it looked like he was becoming, sorry for the phone, more and more kind of more like the dark version of himself. What did
Mhm.
you think of that? Because was that Barry provoking Jefferson? I was a bit confused by those kind of two moments where he throws lightning.
Yeah, so that was the other part of that I kind of had an issue with. Was I think so I think there's a lot of misdirect going on. Like they want us to try and figure out whether or not Barry actually turns into a rogue, or if there's some other reason why
Mm,
Barry is evil. Is he being framed? They want to build that mystery. So in order to do that, they have to create things that we question, like
yeah,
why would Barry do that? Is Barry evil? Is Barry going to become the Reverse Flash? Is Eobard doing something? Has there been some change to the timeline? They're throwing out so many different red herrings for us to follow here with this
mhm,
story. I think that even though I did not totally understand why Barry flipped so quickly and was like, trying to provoke Jefferson or whatever, even though I didn't get it, I understand that just like with the whole taking the powers away, the writers are trying to fabricate this story. And I don't think all of the questions can be answered. Like, I think a lot of the stuff we're seeing with Barry particularly will get answered at the end of this event. So
yeah,
it's a mystery now. So yes, it bothered me, but then I thought back to it and I'm like, maybe that's a they're giving us something to hang our hat on for later, like to come
yeah,
back and go back, because I want to believe that our Barry would not be evil, and I think that that's something that we
yeah,
need to establish, because we've already had the evil, quote unquote evil Barry. That's what Savitar was. So I don't think doing that again makes a lot of sense. I think
yeah,
if they're going to show him cracking and having this mental breakdown kind of situation, or if it's going to be Eobard doing it, I think that's the mystery. I think that's what we're supposed to be curious about. So
that
I'm
definitely
going to
is.
save my opinion on that particular thing until we see where the story plays out.
Yeah, because like the blackout bit is still very curious because you're like, okay, so it wasn't Zotar the previous episode.
Yeah,
So was it Reverse Flash like possessing him?
right.
We'll get an answer for that for sure. I think in the next few episodes. If we don't get an answer for that, I think that's kind of a problem. Don't you
Yeah. So
agree?
do you think at the end of this, if there's still questions, because this story is supposed to be a self-contained graphic novel, so yeah, there's going to be some things that will continue on, but I think the actual story about Barry, Armageddon, and Despero, I think we want definitive answers at the end of this, right? We want it to feel like the end of
Yeah.
a story, right? Okay.
I think
Yeah, I feel
Despero's
like
story is gonna definitely be finished
right.
for sure. And we're gonna get the full answers, like, what's exactly going on. Obviously, he's not very aware of Reverse Flash as far as we know.
Mhm.
And Reverse Flash has set Barry up, and that's kind of what's going on. Again, we'll talk about that a bit later in the stream, but yeah, I think we will get some sort of definitive answer, by the time of episode 5.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too. Okay, let's move on. We got a couple of super chats,
Mhm.
and someone said, uh, how do I get in a super chat? You just go to the search bar, and then underneath there is a $sign. You click on that, you click super chat, and you can type in your question. So that's how you do
And
it.
you can also adjust how much it is by moving the bar back and forth.
Oh
So some
yeah, and
people don't know
there's
that.
also a bar. You can adjust it to whatever you like. Obviously, I think it starts at a different point in different countries. I don't know.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and answer some of these. So Metron says, and he says in a $2 super chat. Thanks so much, Metron. Do you also think Eobard Thorn is using the Sage Force? So this is obviously in regards. I think this question is definitely in regards to the negative still force being tapped into. So we can talk about that now, right? Because
Mhm.
that's on one of my notes that I wanted to get to pretty soon.
Yeah, whenever
So
you want to talk about it.
Iris,
Yeah.
yeah, Iris and Dion, they meet up, and we see Dion for the first time this season. It's nice to have him
Mhm.
back. I really do like him. I think he was the best thing about the story, about the Force storyline, and I really like the actor. I think he's got a good energy around him. Like anytime he's on screen, I enjoy it.
Mhm.
But yeah, so there is some sort of temporal isotopes, I think they called it, and so they're like decaying, and that's because someone has tapped into the negative still force, not the negative speed force like Reverse Flash, and somehow they've altered the timeline by doing that rather than the usual Speed Force way, which all the different forces have supposedly been monitoring. So what did you think about this? And then you can answer your theory about like the Sage Force. Do you think it has anything, like, has it been tapped into? What do you think, Eric?
So I have a lot of notes on this. We'll probably have to go over this more in the after party because
Yeah,
I
that's
have a
fine.
ton of stuff about this. But I will say that it's pretty obvious to me because Thawne has done something to not just alter time, but alter perception with
Yeah.
people. And a lot of people, I saw some comments on Twitter from people who thought that it was kind of gross, about the age difference between Thawne and Iris or whatever. And I do want to comment on that, by the way. I
Mhm.
don't, as long as someone is of age and there's a age difference in them, like say 5-10 years, whatever it is or whatnot, I think it's kind of weird to project that on a relationship. Like some people, like I see tabloids obsessed with that all the time. Like if someone
Mhm.
younger is with someone older, it must be because of money or they're
Yeah.
being taken advantage or whatever. First of all, I just want to address that I think that's just a weird thing to harp on with this because it's not even a real couple first of all.
Yeah.
Secondly, I do think that there is manipulation going on,
Yeah.
and I think it is the use of all of the negative forces. Now, we need to figure out whether or not that's going to be because Thawne created the negative forces, or did Barry and Iris create the negatives when they created the positives? That's
Yeah.
the big question. And again, I have a lot of theories about this, but I have a whole section tomorrow planned for this. So I think that there is I think there's definitely some manipulation of the forces going on. Because otherwise, how would you turn the Flash into the Reverse Flash and take over and then marry his wife? Like there's
Yeah.
definitely something going on, 100%.
I 100% agree. Definitely something going on. I don't think anyone would actively be like, yeah, I want to marry Eobard Thawne. Right? And especially like Ryan Choi, Ryan Wilder, Alex Danvers all being there in the future. Just and
Mhm.
mm, well, let's just say Iris, Iris just standing there, Cecile just standing there. There's something going on, and it's definitely some sort of twist on perception, and they're seeing potentially, what Thorne wants them to see, and that's kind of
Mhm.
how they're doing this. But in regards to the Sage Force, yeah, maybe he's tapping into these different, all the different forces, like you said, Eric. But yeah, we'll get more into that tomorrow because, like you said, you have a lot of theories, and there'll be a whole section on that. So, guys, check out Eric's channel tomorrow for the after party. We should be
Yeah,
there.
Ben will be there too. We're going to
I will
talk
be
about
there.
it. We're going to go in detail. Anything we don't talk about today, we'll talk about tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Cody sends in a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Cody. Cody says, the funny thing about the last scene, no one from OG Team Flash is there. This is entirely true because when I
Yeah.
was doing my review, I was looking back through the photos that I took, like the
Mhm.
stills, and I noticed like you had Ryan Choi, Ryan Wilder, Alex Danvers, so like a kind of new generation maybe of the Justice League is the idea that I got.
Mhm.
Because you have the new version of the Atom, the new Batwoman, Alex Danvers instead of Supergirl, blah blah blah, or instead of like Sarah Lance maybe because they have similar skill sets, I guess. But yeah, and then Team Flash, you had Cecile, Chester was there, Allegra was there, but no one else was there. Like there was no future Caitlin, there was no future Cisco, who maybe would have come back. I don't know. Only person from OG Team Flash there was Iris. So what do you think about that, Eric?
Well, there's always controversy, by the way, Ben, because Iris, some
Mm.
people don't include her as part of OG Team Flash because she didn't actually learn
She's
about his
been since
identity.
season 1.
I know, but she didn't learn about it
I
till
know.
later in the season. Anyway, that's controversial. It's a hot take.
That is a hot take.
But yeah, so that was a weird, like, just that scene in general, like, was very strange because
Mhm.
it's like when it comes to time travel, and this is something the show has struggled with, and this is what I've struggled with a little bit, is what's
Yeah.
the significance of 10 years? in that? Like,
Yeah.
what's the
not that
significance
big.
of that? So Barry supposedly loses his mind in 2021 and doesn't actually do anything evil till 2031. I mean, that doesn't something doesn't add up there. That's 10 years that he's evil for 10 years and Armageddon happens in 2031. I don't know. It's weird to me. And I know that
Yeah.
it's in reference to like the comics and everything. So the other thing is obviously Despero has access to time travel because he went from 2031 back to 2021.
Yeah.
So why would Barry running to 2031 be a problem for him?
It wouldn't
He
be.
could
He can literally
exactly
show up.
So he's like, you don't know what you've done, or whatever. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you could just travel there. Also, why travel back to 2021 to judge Barry? I mean, if you really wanted to take out Barry, just go back to like 2013 before he got his powers. I mean, that's
or in his coma and just kill him.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of the problem with all of this. Is kind of taking me out a little bit. So I'm like, the significance of this, like with this team there, plus the fact that where was Kara, where was John? Like, I know they were off world in 2021,
They all
but
got referenced again in this episode.
In 2031, they should have been there though. They were friends with them at that point. I mean, why
Alex
not? So that doesn't make a lot of sense either. So yeah, there was a lot of little things that I love the scene. I think it was a great ending, but I also question some of it. I'm like, so why the significance of 2031? And I think we're going to find out. I think what's going to happen is we will find out why 2031. But at this point, I'm wondering why. Like, I'm like, is there a significance to this like 10-year gap? Because I do have a theory about it, but I'll talk about it tomorrow. So
okay. Well, I look forward to it. Okay, thanks so much for the super chat, Cody. Let's move on to the next one. Scott Edwards sends in a $4.99 super chat. Thanks so much, Scott. Scott says, so do you think the Alex Danvers, Frost, Ryan Choi, and Chillblame we see fighting Damien Dark in set photos are the future versions or present? Ooh, I haven't seen the set photos yet. Have you seen them, Eric?
I looked a little while ago. I didn't see them, so I don't know unless they just got released.
I'm just gonna pull them up. No, I can't find any.
Because usually they get released to outlets, right? So
yeah. No, there's no photos. So I don't know.
I see the trailer, but no photos.
Yeah. Scott, maybe you've seen some other photos that we haven't seen, but if you know,
does he mean behind the scene photos, like photos from like Canada Graphs or something?
Is it set photos, Scott? Maybe it's set photos. There was definitely set photos of Chillblane and Frost. Oh, so that answers the Frost question from earlier. I remember there was.
I knew she was going to be there, but I didn't think it was going to be Caitlin. I thought it was just going to be Frost. Like I don't think they're going to merge them together.
Oh, okay. It's from apparently it's from the reverse Barry set when they did that thing.
So the thing is that clearly it's the future versions. I mean, that's what it is. And this is why. So this is, I don't know how the chat feels about this, but this means that that Barry will learn about Ryan before Ryan learns about Barry. So he'll know who the new Batwoman is before she knows who the Flash is.
True.
So kind of interesting.
You know, with Ryan, like in the episode, I don't know about you guys, but when she showed up and turned around, for a second it just didn't click that she was Batwoman for me. I was like, what is going on here? I don't know. Like, I kind of for a minute expected Ruby Rose or something. I don't know why my brain was thinking that. Like, I was like waiting for Batwoman. Then there was no one in the suit, so I was like, huh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't recognize Ryan for a second.
Also, this is kind of sad because is Ryan Choi going to just be for these 2 episodes, and then we're not going to see him again as the Atom? That's
maybe I'm not sure. But yeah, it's weird that there was only like 3 characters and like there was no one else. And I'm interested to see why it's those specific 3 characters. Is there a reason, or is it just who they could get?
What do you mean? Like, as in the ones that are fighting? Is that what you're talking about? Or the ones that were in the scene?
Well, yeah, the ones that are fighting, which is Ryan Choi and Alex Danvers, who are the future versions probably of themselves. Why are those the ones that are, acquaintances with?
Oh, you mean why they were there specifically? Like why they were in that event?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of other, like, you would think other people would be there. Like, why wasn't Cisco there? Why wasn't, because the thing is that that if they believe that Eobard is Barry, which I think that is a big possibility.
I think they do. Yeah.
Which is very like Elseworlds. But if they believe that Eobard is Barry, then you would think that other people would be there, that it wouldn't specifically be these groups. Because even if Ryan Choi is the Atom, what happened to Ray Palmer? Why is he not there? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of questions. I'm not gonna judge that yet because I want to see if they or if there's a reason why. Because it's quite possible if Eobard is using the forces that there's a specific reason why those characters are there. Maybe he knew Barry was going to show up at that moment, and those were the characters he needed there to defeat the Flash, and that's why
maybe
he did that. So
also they're all non-powered heroes, apart from obviously the Atom has a suit. So and technically Barry's leveled up. However, do you think the reason that they had that big fight between him and Black Lightning trying to take away the powers, has his powers dwindled? Do you think?
I think he's weakened, so he's gonna have to. That's why we saw the set photos with him in the reverse Flash suit with the tachyon device.
Yeah. So that's
because he's gonna need an extra boost of energy, and I think he's gonna get that from Damien Dark. I think that's the deal he's gonna make with Damien Dark.
Yeah, I'm curious what's going on with Damien Dark because obviously they have a connection, him and Reverse Flash. I feel like he's going to be a middleman. I don't feel like he's going to be like a straight up villain.
I think it's going to be the Legion of Doom from Legends. I think it's the three of them back as the Legion of Doom. That's what I think.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wait, because if him, Reverse Flash, and who?
And Malcolm Merlin. That was the Legion of Doom.
But Merlin's not going to show up. So
No, but I think that's where the connection comes from with these characters.
Yeah.
Like, I believe that's what the deal is. And I think that that if they see Barry as Eobard, to them, he's the same person they knew before.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. Anyway, thanks so much for the super chat, Scott. Scott sends in another super chat. Thank you once again. Scott says, do you think for the 10-year anniversary next year we will get a huge Justice League crossover with Kara and Jefferson returning along with Barry, Sarah, John, and Clark? So I presume this is the 10-year anniversary of Arrow?
The Arrowverse maybe?
When did Arrow come out?
2013.
2012.
The end of 2012, the fall of 2012. Yeah, the fall of 2012.
It was the 10th of October, 2012. So when that hits, well, I think episode 1 will start airing maybe like the week afterwards. So I don't know if there's going to be like a bang on that day, big anniversary special or something.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think, and what do you make of like a crossover next year? Do you think it's going to be a big crossover? Are they going to try and go for that, do you think?
I think it would be cool. I mean, I don't know if the chat would like this, but I think a crossover with the Spectre coming back would be awesome. Like with him making an appearance and maybe Darkseid showing up in the Arrowverse. That would be
great. I'm just hoping for Steven back. I really want.
Well, I honestly think if they could do it for an event, because an event is just a small commitment. Like it's just coming back for a couple of weeks to film or whatever. I think that if he came back to be the Spectre, he could show up for maybe the final part of the event. Like he snaps in there, he's on the ground. And I know this is not very Spectre-esque, but wouldn't it be awesome if, I'm totally in a different category with this now, and I'm all theory crafting here. But if they did come back, wouldn't it be awesome if like Darkseid is the villain, right? And as the Spectre, he like snaps his fingers and he just turns back in himself as the Arrow, but all of his arrows are like super powered. I think that would be that would be really, really awesome as Green Arrow.
That would be awesome.
I would love that. And I would love to see Melissa back as well. I think if you're going to do an anniversary, you should bring like as many people back as possible.
Everyone. Black Lightning. Who else is not around? I mean, people from the past like Rip Hunter. Anyone.
Firestorm, the original Firestorm, I think should come back.
Firestorm.
The Hawk people, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, I think they should come back.
Well, I mean, Robbie Amell's coming back.
Yeah.
Do we know kind of his role? What's he going to be doing?
We don't know at all. No.
It's very interesting that they're literally bringing back.
I think it might be a time travel episode. I think it might be a time travel episode.
And do you think it has a link to Eddie coming back?
Yes. Yeah, I do think that story's connected.
I'm so excited. I'm like, what the hell is going on? We got Eddie, we got Ronnie, we got everyone.
Yeah.
It's a very fun and exciting time to be in Arrowverse and specifically Flash fan right now, because I think this crossover is definitely delivering on the promise. And then obviously past the crossover, we got the return of Bart and Nora. They're going to be coming back. I believe Jay Garrick is coming back. And then we have the returning characters.
I mean, if you think about it, this is setting up to be a really strong season of The Flash. I think there's a lot of positives. So,
and I think maybe they realize, oh, maybe we need to do some like fan service, you know.
Let's be clear here. I don't think any of these 3 episodes feel like it doesn't feel like a blueprint from a previous episode of The Flash. Like this all feels like very different types of episodes. So I really enjoy that.
Yeah, me too. Okay, Gary's here. Welcome, Gary. Welcome to the live stream. Gary sends in a $1.99 super chat. He says, "Is the Flash getting delayed later than March?" Eric, do you have an answer?
No, I don't think it will.
No, Gary.
They've already filmed most of those episodes, so I don't see it getting delayed.
Yeah, they would have had them in a bag, Gary. So like they're probably editing them right now, because they're gonna have a long break. So I don't think it's going to get delayed any further, especially because I think it will mess up the schedule if that does happen. But thanks, Gary. Gary sends in another super chat. He sends in a big $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Gary, for supporting on that level. Gary says, "Are you mad at me? Are you proud of me? Love your video. Is The Flash Season 9, the final season, and is Thorne never retiring? And do you think this is the other show's final season?" Let's start with the beginning. So I'm very proud of you, Gary, for showing up to the live stream. Yeah. But in regards to the Flash's final season being season 9, I guess there's always a chance. I've got a feeling, an inkling that we're going to go to season 10. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I a lot of people have been talking about like whether or not they think this is the final season or if next season is going to be the final season. I don't like to think that way about any of the shows. I'd like to just assume they're going to continue. I don't really obsess over like a show's final season. The only show that I've ever thought about that, like I've talked about it, is Legends of Tomorrow, only because I'm still kind of shocked that show has continued, to be completely honest. But other than that, I think every show has the ability to go on longer. Even Batwoman, I think there's still stories to tell. There's so many different characters and stories, and as long as Grant is committed to doing it, I don't see an issue with it continuing. And I don't think Grant doesn't. A lot of people say he seems like he's out of it. I don't. I feel like there's I feel like he's got a renewed vigor about the show. He's there, and I know we talked about this in the after party last week with Canada Graphs, and he says on set he doesn't seem to be into it or whatever and whatnot. I mean, he's there doing a job, yes, but I feel like he loves what he's doing. I don't see any.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he's dialing it in. Like, no offense to Melissa, but Melissa, to me, in a lot of the final season, felt like she was just dialing in some of her performances. I don't get that from Grant here.
No, me
and
too.
If they're going to announce the final season of The Flash, it's going to be a big deal, and we will know about it. It'll be huge. Like, out of all the shows that have been like wrapped up in the Arrowverse, I think The Flash wrapping up production would be massive.
Biggest deal.
Because this show now for the last 2 weeks has been trending up towards it's been up in live viewership, which doesn't matter in renew or canceling of the shows, but it matters in terms of like engagement. It shows that people are still interested in watching The Flash live, which is a big deal.
Yeah, so it's definitely a big deal, and maybe it's a good sign. I think. I think it's all down to Grant, and I mean, if you look at Supernatural, it's definitely possible. The CW is down for it. Maybe Grant is. We'll see. But okay, what is
10 seasons would be amazing. If we got 10 seasons of The Flash,
would be great. It would be amazing. I think it would be a shame to stop at 9. To be fair, in my opinion. Let's see what Gary's back part of the question was. Is Thorne never retiring? Well, I don't think he would actively stop.
I think we established that Thawne will always be Barry's like worst villain. Like
as long as Barry's around, Thawne will be around pretty much. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then the final part of the question: do you think? And Gary says over here, he just corrected it. Do you think the other shows are going to end? Any of the other shows?
This season? No. I don't
Not
think any
this
shows are
season.
ending this season.
Batwoman is definitely not going to end. Naomi isn't, because it's just starting.
They're very happy with Batwoman. I don't think a lot of people think Batwoman is going somewhere. The network is very, very happy with Batwoman. So
yeah. I think if any show ends, and I know we say this every year, Legends is going to end, but I really do think if any show is going to end,
actually let's change it up. Legends is not going to end this year. Let's see what happens now.
Okay, it's not going to end. Maybe we're kind of
Legends will go on for 10 seasons. There we go. Is that going to jinx it?
Yeah, Legends going to go on for 15 seasons. We'll see. Okay, let's move on. Thanks so much for the super chat, Gary. Scott sends in another $4.99 super chat. Scott says, what role do you think Mia will play in the Armageddon finale, teaming up with Barry to defeat the Reverse Flash? Well, according to the synopsis, Mia comes back because she is searching for someone very dear to her. Now, who is this someone? Apparently, according to Eric Wallace, they're going to be wrapping up some stuff that was set up in the backdoor pilot episode on Arrow. So I'm pretty sure she's going to be coming back to look for none other than William, right?
Yeah, and as much as people probably don't want to watch it, he said that like watching that backdoor pilot again will definitely set you up for the finale of Armageddon. So that tells me that that's probably accurate. The Williams storyline will get wrapped up, and that they will put sort of a bookend on the Mia storyline, so that if they never get a chance to use her again, we will have some sort of answer to like her storyline. So
yeah, I'm excited because I always like Arrow characters coming back because I do miss the show. I think Arrow had some really freaking great seasons, and overall, I really do miss Oliver. Like, I think it was always kind of like not my favorite Arrowverse show, but always like a comfort show that you can kind of like go back to and be like, oh yeah, I am Green Arrow, So I'm looking forward to like rewatching maybe before part 5 a couple of episodes, and then I'll try and hit that backdoor pilot just to set it up.
I'm just gonna bite the bullet and watch it again, just that one backdoor.
Yeah, me too.
It's kind of disconnected from the rest of the season. So
me too, and I miss Arrow, so I feel like it's a good excuse, maybe for all of us. To go
it's funny, Mark Guggenheim recently did an interview where he said there may be an opportunity for Green Arrow and the Canaries to come back. So we'll wait and see what's going to happen with that.
You know what? I would actually like it because I just want something Arrow related. And same thing goes to Supergirl. I just want one spinoff. I know Superman and Lois is a spinoff, but I want one post Supergirl ending, or one post Arrow ending. Just continue with characters that we've already had on those shows. That's what I would like. Not just a character that showed up once or twice like Superman, but a character we've had for a while, like say
like
Neo,
a proper spin-off of a character. Yeah.
Like on Arrow, who would it be? It would be like Black Canary or something, right? Or Green Arrow now.
Well, that's the thing is, even if you didn't like the Mia casting, everyone should have been excited about getting like the Black Canaries like back on screen together.
Exactly.
So.
Everyone likes Laura Lance and Diana Drake, and we'll have to wait and see if that ever comes to fruition. But that is all the super chats for now. Okay, let's move on. We got a couple more points to hit before the end of the stream.
Is this a rapid fire round? Because we're we're getting close to the end of the stream. So
yeah, so start sending in your final super chats. Obviously, we got about 16 minutes or so until we hit the hour point. We have a couple of stuff that I've still got noted down that we want to talk about. So let's get your opinion on the Top and Cecile and their story, because Cecile had a lot of stuff in this episode.
That was awful, Ben. That was
it was dramatic.
No, it was so. I mean, I've already had my issues with Cecile. I think Cecile is better written when she's written like Joe, which is odd. Her best episodes were the episodes where Jesse had to take off because of his back, and she kind of had to pick up the stories by herself. I love Danielle Nicolette. I think she's a very amazing actor, and she's very good on social media and a lot of fun. So I don't know whose fault this was, but this episode with her emotional moments and stuff with the top and everything, they felt so disconnected from what this actually is. Because even though we have an over-the-top villain in Despero, because he's very like his gravitas is, he's just all over the place or whatever, everyone else should be at like the same tone. Like they should all be in the same tone. Chester has this funny moment. You expect that from Chester. I don't like unintentionally funny stuff because I think she was trying to convey real emotion and it just didn't connect for me.
Yeah.
And her issues with Iris were really weird to me because I thought that was a production thing. Like they needed to split Iris up from Team Flash. That's what they were doing. And they had to find a way to make it make sense. And so they're like, let's have her argue with Cecile about whether or not Joe's alive. And then that'll split them up or whatever. The issue is that as someone who has lost a spouse and actually had that happen, and having kids that is, you know, is the kids of a spouse, whether it be, you know, through marriage or actual children, you never want to diminish how they feel about the loss of their parent. And so having her argue with Iris like she's the only person that lost someone was one of the weirdest things they could have done with that character. And I thought, like, again, knowing what it's like to be in that place, that's not the way you interact with someone who has also lost a person close to them. And I get that she was upset, but it was weird because Iris was like, if you go back and you watch that scene, Iris was so calm through the whole scene. And Cecile was just completely erratic. And I'm like, maybe this is because of Despero or something. I don't know. But I hated that whole, like, Cecile was the weakest part of this episode and absolutely the weakest part of the 3 episodes we've had in this event, easily.
I 100% agree with you. So the whole time when I was watching that scene, you know, I've interviewed Danielle Nicolette before. I think she's a good actor and I 100% respect what she was going for, but there was something that was off, like you said. It seems like they weren't in the same scene. Like you said with Iris, she was just kind of standing there listening like idly, while Cecile, obviously she's full of grief. I mean, it is her husband after all.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, that makes sense, right? But it felt like her being like that kind of diminished Iris's connection to Joe.
Yes, exactly.
And it just felt wrong that she was allowed to scream for so long without Iris saying anything, you know? It was just like, I don't know. And then finally, when Iris finally said something, she was like, he was my dad, you know? I was like, thank you. You should have said this like right at the start, you know? Something off with it.
It didn't score any points for me for Cecile. Like I wasn't team Cecile in that moment. And I've been in her shoes. Like I've been in her shoes. I know what it feels like. And I was not on team Cecile in that moment. It just did not feel, it didn't feel genuine to me.
No.
The other thing is Cecile being able to basically defeat Despero so easily was also a problem for me.
Her mind control heat vision.
Yeah. So I totally believe, based on like Cecile being able to use her emotional feelings about Joe as a power, absolutely made sense because we know that Cecile's power, I guess, is she's empathic. So it makes sense that she would gain power from emotion. But if she can so easily just dismiss Despero mentally like that, then how big of a threat is he really? That's the problem with that scene for me. There was a lot of issues with Cecile's story. I don't really know. I'm hoping that there's sort of more answers to that because otherwise it feels very unearned in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I definitely think there was something off of it. And no offense to Danielle Nicolette, but I do think, actually, wait, I'm not sure if it was her. Okay, I think her acting was a bit over the top. I definitely think it was like way too big. However, like you said, if everyone else was that big, it would make sense. Like if Iris was acting that big in terms of her emotional grief.
Yeah, because
I
Cecile
think it
was
would make more
screaming at
sense.
someone who wasn't saying anything. That
Yeah.
was what was weird about it. There was no argument. It was literally Cecile screaming at Iris, and it just didn't. I didn't feel that reaction was the proper reaction to what was happening.
Yeah, it didn't seem realistic. It didn't seem like something that would actually happen. So yeah, a bit weird.
By the way, I also want to point out the fact that Iris was suggesting that Joe could still be alive because of time travel. Not the weirdest thing to suggest. And I'm pretty sure that everyone in that group has had that situation happen. So that's why Cecile's reaction was even more strange.
I 100% agree. And she also showed the video, and it looked weird because there was a couple of frames missing where technically, say, someone could have swooped in or put
They could have blipped in, they could have teleported him away. The video could have been, there was something sketchy about it. That's why it seems so weird to me.
You know, her being extremely dismissive of it just didn't feel right, because they've gone through, like you said, so many weird things. They are Team Flash after all. They, you know, she's a friggin' meta attorney, right?
Yeah, right.
She should expect this. She should be like, oh, maybe there is a chance.
And wouldn't her powers, if she's that emotional, wouldn't that affect the people around her? Like if she's that upset, why would Iris be so calm? Or vice versa. If Iris is so calm, why would Cecile be so upset? There was just so many questions about that moment that I was like, okay, something's definitely off about this. And I could go on and on about this. We'll talk, because we're going to spend a lot more time on that tomorrow. But yeah, so if you want to hear me rant more about this, then tune in tomorrow, because it really did kind of set me off.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. So we have just under 10 minutes left. So just a reminder for you guys, if you want to send in any final super chats, please be sure to send them in right now. Or if you have anything like just any kind of burning question, please just send it in the normal chat as well, and we'll try and get to it. What is the after party? Oh, so it's Eric's live stream he does every week, and it's pretty much exactly the same as this. It's a bit longer, like half an hour longer.
It's an hour and a half. Yeah, it's about a 30
an hour and a half, and we talk about, like, you know, anything that Eric wants to talk about pretty much.
Well, tomorrow we'll be talking about The Flash, and this is going to be really quick because I know we have a lot of time. We're talking about The Flash, and also we're going to have a whole segment on shipping in the Arrowverse.
Oh, so, no way.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about Caramel and Olicity and West Island. And I'm not joking, I'm being serious. I want to talk about it because I think it's something that on social media that kind of baffles me, so I want to have a conversation about that. So we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah. So Unspeakable BG, type in Eric's Reloaded, which I just sent in the chat, and subscribe. And tomorrow we'll be doing a live stream. I'll be there with Eric and maybe a special guest or two. So, all right, the last few things. I want to talk about the ending. We've talked about it with some of the super chats, but let's briefly talk about our thoughts on it being like the song from WandaVision. It was Thorn all along. Thoughts on Thorn being behind everything. Was it expected? Was it a good twist? What do you think, Eric?
All right, so I don't think it was expected. I think they were leading us in that direction. But they've done a really good job of keeping us on our toes with these first 3 episodes. There's been a lot of things that I haven't seen coming, and I think that's really strong in the writing. But yeah, I think that Thawne being responsible for all of it and having something to do with the negative still force and possibly the negative sage force and the negative strength force and all these different forces, I think there's a bit of excitement. I'm very, because I've made this very clear, Reverse Flash is my favorite villain in pretty much all of the Arrowverse. And so having Welzabard back again, and this time like hitting Barry in the worst place possible, which is going after his wife, which is just absolutely crazy. It's pretty wild. I will say that, you know, now we have to deal with Despero and we have to deal with Reverse Flash. So this is going to be, and possibly like Team Flash members and beyond. So it's going to be pretty wild. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me was like, okay, so it's 2031, 10 years in the future. Ryan Choi's there, Ryan Wilder's there, Alex Danvers is there. But what the hell is going on? I think the big thing for me was their reaction when Barry walked into the room and they saw Barry and they were like, what is he doing here? And then in the trailer, you see like Iris pulling a gun on Barry and like everyone ready to stand off, like Ryan Choi about to pull out his new Atom suit. So I think this definitely all plays into the idea, as we mentioned earlier, that Reverse Flash has turned himself into Barry and everyone else perceives him as the Flash and Barry Allen, as he originally intended to do. Because remember, Reverse Flash's origin story is always he tries to be the Flash. He tries to be like Barry because he's his idol. But because he can't be exactly like him, he becomes the reverse of him. He becomes, he tries to hinder Barry essentially from achieving everything. So in this case, I think their reactions are definitely warranted because they see Barry as Reverse Flash, and that's why you're going to see Barry in the Reverse Flash costume, maybe next episode or the episode afterwards. What do you think of that? Do you think that theory is right? That
I think it's so exciting. So the exciting part about this, and I bet the chat's as excited as we are, is that so Despero now has said that Barry like loses his mind and destroys, everything with Armageddon. And we didn't want to believe it. And again, I have a lot of theories about why, but ultimately, I think Despero is right, but Barry is also right because Barry has been changed into Thawne, but Despero still sees him as Barry because I don't think Despero has been swayed by any of the other forces. Yeah. So it's just insane. Like this whole thing is wild to me. And then, Barry doesn't want to hurt his friends. So he's going to have to face off against his friends to try and take out Thawne, who now looks like Barry. And I see somebody in the chat saying, why does he look like Wells? I think it's 2021. We understand why. Tom Cavanaugh's in Vancouver. Matt Lesher's not available to film sometimes when they need him. It's easier for them to do that. That's the reason why.
Also, last time he showed up, he was Wells. So we can kind of presume it is that version and that's why he ran off to.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think the reason why is logistics. Like, it's easier for them to do that. So, yes, as a viewer, I've questioned why he looks like Wells Abard, but I don't think we can keep saying that because it doesn't make sense, but I guess it does. So just stop asking the questions about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like irrelevant now.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So he looks like Wells because it's just easier for them to do that. Plus, everybody loves Tom Cavanaugh. Don't even front. Everybody loves Tom. I love Matt Lesher, but I also love Tom Cavanaugh, and I love having him back on the show. So, but this also, I don't know if the chat feels this way or not, but it also feels like this is that creepy, evil Wells Abard that we knew back in season 1. Like this doesn't seem like the one we've had over the years. This legit feels like that Wells from all the way back in season 1. So I'm super, super excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely feels like season 1 was because like season 1 was, you have to remember what he did was so schemy. He took over Harrison Wells's body because he realized he couldn't go back to the future and back to the future. And then, he stayed all these years. He pretended to be Wells. He built up Star Labs and basically he built the particle accelerator early. He did this all whilst he was Thawne, but he was under the disguise as Wells, and he kept that charade going up until, Barry's got powers, and then finally everything gets revealed, but he's still scheming this whole time, and, this is exactly what he's been doing.
This is like a story from the comics, ripped out of the comics. Like Thawne always wanted to look like Barry Allen, so this is like that story without being that story, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And I'm just excited. Like you said, it's like season 1.
I haven't been this excited about the Flash in a long time. I mean, yes, early in season 7, yes, I was, but we also have to remember that the beginning of season 7 was actually the end of season 6. So
true, it was like the finale.
Yeah, season 7 actually started in episode 4, pretty much.
I have to say, this is much more exciting for me.
Yeah, it is. I would agree. But if you look back at season 7, the only thing that got me this excited was the end of season 7, the Godspeed stuff. So I'm in a different place now than I was at the actual beginning of season 7.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, we have a super chat from Metron. Thank you so much. Metron says, do you think Reverse Flash has Forever Force?
I think that because of what happened at the end of season 1, Reverse Flash is infinite. I think he's undefeatable because the theory was, according to the way they explained it, was when Eobard was in the future and he was running in through the past through the negative Speed Force, when he got erased from existence, that version of him that was in the negative Speed Force, that particular version will always exist.
Yeah.
So when he came out of the negative Speed Force back in season 1, he always exists because of that. And changes to the timeline since season 1 have probably also created other possibilities for Reverse Flash to be around. So I think just Wells existing at this point, we're just going to have to accept the fact that he could be anywhere at any time. That's just the way it is with the story.
No, I agree. And I just looked up Forever Force for you guys that don't know what it is. So in the comics, I'm just reading off a page. The Forever Force is a cosmic force based around time. Hunter Zolomon was granted access to the Force when he was caught in an explosion on the cosmic treadmill. And it says the powers that it grants its conduits the power to manipulate time, which is definitely what Thawne is doing. So Hunter Zolomon stated that he was only granted a taste of this power in the comics, as he was only able to use the Forever Force to control the flow of time itself, making it appear as if he was using super speed. So I guess that's similar to the Still Force, right? Making it appear
I would also say that it's very clear at the end of last season that Thawne knew that Barry was faster than him. So Thawne is smart, and he would have looked for other ways to get faster than the Flash. So I would not be surprised if he used some other version of the Force to manipulate speed. So it makes total sense to me. If Thawne has access to like the Still Force or any of the other forces, Barry's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it's going to be game over. But maybe that's a good thing while why Dion is around. Maybe.
Absolutely. Help. Yeah, totally.
And also with Iris seemed really powerful. Like what they set up with her was definitely very interesting in regards to
I know we didn't talk a lot about her. We'll talk more about it tomorrow during the after party, but I was very happy with the way Iris's story is being set this season. So.
This can be our last point. Just briefly, let's discuss some Iris, because I mentioned earlier, I really do think what she had in this episode with her journalistic storyline was exactly what I was looking for. What do you think?
I've been complaining about this for like 4 or 5 seasons now, that Iris just doesn't feel like a fully formed character. And we've been promised that we would get a better version of Iris every season for like the last 3 seasons. I think they finally nailed it. And I think this version of Iris is the best version we've ever had of her character. Like the last 3 episodes, and this episode in particular, is the best version of Iris we've ever had. And so I have to give credit where it's due. I'm really enjoying Iris right now. I've always been a fan of Candace. I think Candace has always given 100% to the character, but I don't think that the writers and the directors have nailed the character as well as they have in the last 3 episodes. So
I agree. And I think maybe part of that is because of the very personal link to what she's investigating with Joe. I think that's one of the reasons why it really works in this episode, because you're like, okay, I 100% know why she's going like full in on this, because she needs to find out exactly what happened. And, I think the idea of her going back on herself, like kind of being like, oh no, maybe it was just me being silly or something. It makes sense. And then it was nice that she literally bounced back from that, being like, yeah, something definitely is going on. Because if you're a journalist and you're an investigative journalist, kind of like she is, you're definitely going to be questioning yourself. And
you want actual tangible evidence. And that's what she's doing, is she is distinguishing like evidence versus like anecdotal stuff and whether or not she believes it or not. And these are all signs of a good reporter. And I think that like, so over the seasons, and I know we're going over a little bit here, but over the seasons where I've talked about Iris, I've been very critical of her, and people have already said, well, what do you want from this character? And this is it. Like, this is the blueprint of what I've wanted for Iris since I started complaining about Iris. And I know we're not going to get this every single episode because the story may not call for it, but if I know this is what she's capable of, then this needs to be represented more throughout the series, because this makes her more than just Barry's wife or more than a plot device. This actually makes her a fully formed character.
She's like Lois Lane if they stick on this path.
Exactly.
Because on Superman Lois, they did Lois Lane really good in season 1, and we were
Do
saying,
you think
this
that they
is
learned from that?
what
Do you
Iris
think that's
needs to
why
do.
they did this? Do you think they learned from watching Superman and Lois?
I think maybe they took a look and they were like, this is really good what they're doing. Maybe we can take a few notes. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah. Okay, so we have a super chat from Cal, who sends in 199 super chat. Thank you very much for the final super chat. I appreciate the support, and that pretty much does it, I think, for this live stream. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a good one. There's a lot of stuff that we had to talk about. I think there's an absolute abundance of what we can talk about. Like, there's so much more. So please be sure to tune into the after party tomorrow, because we'll be talking much more. Obviously, we're going to be talking about shipping, which Eric teased earlier, as well as some other theories in regards to
there's a lot of theories I have, and I think we'll spend a lot more time on the Iris dynamic and a few other things. So
exciting stuff. Going to be some different angles, I guess, as well in the after party. So that's on Eric's channel. Link will be in the description below.
It'll be around the same time that we started here today, if anybody's curious. It'll start around the same time. So
around 5 p.m. ET.
Yeah, that's about right.
5 p.m. ET, about 10 p.m. UK time, for all of you guys wondering. But yeah, so for now, thanks for watching, and thanks for tuning in, and to everyone who supported throughout this live stream and sent in questions. We had a lot of really good questions this live stream, so I appreciate you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys later. Go check out Eric's review of this episode and my review. But yeah, for now, see you later.